This is the Locked On Jets podcast on this Sunday evening. I'm your host, John B. from GangGreenNation.com. If you're new to the show, this is a daily podcast covering the New York Jets. I really don't even know what to say at this point. The New York Jets had another horrific loss in Week 11. They were defeated by the Indianapolis Colts 28-27 at MetLife Stadium. The Jets' record falls to 3-8 heading into their bye week. And to be honest with you, for a lot of this game, I was very, very relaxed. I felt very detached because, quite frankly, I had given up on this football team. This team has shown that it's not capable of playing well for extended stretches. It's shown that it's not capable of going on the type of run it would need to go on to get back into the playoff race. Last weekend against Arizona was a disgraceful performance, one of many disgraceful performances this team has turned in through the season. This is a team that's been not just the biggest disappointment of the year, but one of the biggest disappointments in the NFL in some time. There's really not much to like about this team. So I was kind of relaxed. I watched a very sloppy football game. I watched both teams make mistake after mistake. I thought maybe the Jets will win, maybe they won't win. But after you've given up hope on the season, you kind of check out emotionally, or so I thought. But I became so frustrated as I watched the Indianapolis Colts drive down the field on this vaunted Jets defense, a Jets defense which entered the season with so much hype, a Jets defense that has so many big name players, a Jets defense which statistically, in some ways, looks like a very good unit. But once again, they failed to get the big stop. And it's not so much that they allowed a game-winning score, because it doesn't matter how good your defense is. That happens. It's not even that they allowed 2 scores to lose this game. It's that for the second time in 4 weeks, the New York Jets defense allowed not just any quarterback. Look, it's one thing if, Tom Brady does it to you. It's one thing if Patrick Mahomes does this to you. For the second time in 4 weeks, the Jets allowed a quarterback, not once. Even if it happens once, it's fine. Second time in 4 weeks, the Jets allowed a quarterback who had been previously benched this season to lead 2 scoring drives against it in the fourth quarter to lose a game. It happened 3 weeks ago against Jacoby Brissett. It happened this week against Anthony Richardson. I mean, watching Richardson those last 2 drives, you would have thought he was Patrick Mahomes the way he was torching the Jets defense. This is a quarterback who had been benched previously this season. This is a quarterback who entered this game completing 44.8% of his passes. And look, some of the passes were pretty impressive. He's a physically talented guy. He showed some ability, some flashes of being able to produce, but not consistently. And it's as much about what the Jets didn't do. The game-winning drive was set up by a busted coverage, a big pass Richardson hit down the right sideline. Was Sauce Gardner to blame? I think it was. I think Sauce has to carry that a little bit further down the field. But very emblematic of a team that just plays very, very poor situational football. You can have all the talent in the world. And by the way, the Jets do not have all the talent in the world. This is a team that's talent level was greatly, greatly overhyped before the start of the season. And look, I was guilty of that myself. I think a lot of us overestimated how talented this football team is. But no matter how talented you are, if you can't play situational football, you're going to lose games. You're going to lose games you should win. I think one of the most impressive things about the Kansas City Chiefs during their run, and I think it was the same was true of the New England Patriots during their 20-year dynasty. It wasn't that they had a Hall of Fame coach. It wasn't even that they had a Hall of Fame quarterback. It's how infrequently they gave games away. Because half of winning these tight games means just not making the key mistake. And the Jets make these mistakes over and over and over, whether they're not communicating on defense or what they did on the offensive side of the ball. Jets had a chance to ice this game in the fourth quarter. They had the ball. They were up 2. They were driving, and the drive stalled. And again, maybe that happens. Not every team finishes off a touchdown drive that can seal the game. But during that drive, they wasted 2 timeouts, one of which seemed to come when Aaron Rodgers lost track of the play clock. Now, maybe Rodgers just got to the line, did not like what he saw, but he was late to recognize it. So the Jets wasted 1 timeout there, which was the less egregious of the 2 wasted timeouts. The second came after the Jets were stopped short of the line to gain on 3rd down. So 4th down's coming up. I don't know whether it was a call from the sideline. I don't know whether Rodgers went rogue and decided to do this himself, but Rodgers gets them up to the line and tries to hard count the Colts into an offsides. And look, I understand game management can be subjective. I understand a lot of the criticism comes out after the fact, and it's based on, did it work or not? So all I can do is tell you what I thought as it was happening. And as it was happening, I said, this is a bad move. As it was happening, I said, you don't want to burn a second timeout here. And that's what the Jets did. And look, would it have made a difference in the game? Well, the Jets may have been able to first of all, the Jets may have been able to leave themselves more time to mount an offensive drive when the Colts at the point where the Colts scored, because the Jets got the ball back and there was less than a minute left in this game. And part of that was that the Colts were able to melt the clock on their final drive. Jets got the ball back. There was 46 seconds left the first time on their final series. And that was in part because they didn't have any timeouts left, because they burned 2 of their timeouts on their previous offensive sequence. And the timeouts were not taken for good reasons. So, I mean, look, these are the little things. The little things are what get you. You know, in these tight games in the NFL, about half the games in this league, the numbers show, are decided by one score or less. It's the little details. And the Jets so frequently this year have lacked the little details. But of course, there are also bigger fundamental problems with this team. And you're on the Locked On Jets podcast, we're going to talk about the biggest one. And it's something a lot of people won't want to hear, but it's becoming increasingly clear that this quarterback, there are big issues with him, and these issues are probably not going to be fixed. We'll talk about what these issues are as we continue here on this Sunday edition of Locked On Jets. This Sunday game recap edition of Locked On Jets is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Well, our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and history of the Constitution, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope, and Rise and Fall of the Roman Republic. They don't have game management for NFL teams yet, but if they ever get it, I'm signing the Jets up. I'm signing the entire team, the entire coaching staff up for that one. But Hillsdale has a lot of great courses, and all of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. This episode of Locked On Jets is also brought to you by PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best play to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. Just download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app and use code LOCKEDONNFL. It's one word with no space, LOCKEDONNFL, to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. This is the Locked On Jets podcast. On this Sunday evening, we are recapping another bad loss for the New York Jets. They fall to the Indianapolis Colts 28-27 at MetLife Stadium. The Jets record goes to 3-8 on the season. And we spent the early part of the show talking about the Jets playing horrible situational football in the fourth quarter, which has been one of the stories of the season. But you know what? This game was not just lost in the fourth quarter. It was also lost in the first half. It was a dismal performance by the New York Jets in the first half of this game. Through 25 minutes, the Jets, Aaron Rodgers had 3 passing yards in the first 25 minutes. The Jets did not have their first down of this game until there was 2 minutes left in the first half. And I think a lot of the blame has to go to Aaron Rodgers. And I understand that, he's not the only guy out there. I understand that sometimes the quarterback takes too much blame when things are going poorly. But I watch the situation right now, and I say, the only difference right now between Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson is Rodgers doesn't make as many really, really dumb throws. Rodgers doesn't put the ball in danger, but there's the same lack of big play potential in this offense. I mean, when you look at it, I know it's a funny thing to say on the day where the Jets scored 27 points for the first time all season, and this was the Jets' biggest offensive output of the year on paper. But I mean, you have to look at how those points came. I mean, in the Jets scoring drives in this game, the first one came late in the first half where the Colts kind of played prevent defense, and the Jets were able to get into a little bit of a rhythm, and Breece Hall, broke a big play. The second score came because the Jets were gifted a short field by a Colts fumble. And again, Breece Hall made a couple big plays. Jets' third drive, it was set up by a questionable penalty call on the Indianapolis Colts, where they were, the Jets were gifted the ball off a kick catch interference penalty, which did not seem like a kick catch interference penalty. So the Jets weren't really producing big plays on offense, and Rodgers was not looking down the field. I mean, you can see his immediate reaction was to check it down. If you look at this offense right now, it reminds me of the Jets offense in 2022 and 2023. And on how many of those game recaps did I look back and say, this Jets offense, if Breece Hall doesn't make a big play, nothing's happening. And that's exactly what happened in this game. Breece Hall, fortunately, who got off to a really slow start this season, has really started to pick things up. In this game, he carried the ball 16 times for 78 yards. He added 7 catches for 43 yards. I mean, if you look at the way the targets were distributed in this game, Garrett Wilson had 8, Devontae Adams had 7, Breece Hall had 7. I mean, look, I think Breece Hall is an excellent player, but Breece Hall having 7 targets and being up there with Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams shows you that Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to push the ball down the field. Rodgers' lack of mobility is also an issue. When the other team rushes 3, you always hear, and Rodgers moves around a little bit. That's the one time he's comfortable. There was a key play in the fourth quarter where the Colts only rushed 3 and Rodgers stood in the pocket. That's the only time he's standing in the pocket, and he starts to move around a little bit there. And you hear the announcers on TV talking about Rodgers' mobility. Yeah, he looks mobile when nobody's trying to run him down. But if he feels pressure in the pocket, he's going down. The numbers speak for themselves with Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers in this game averaged 6.3 yards per attempt. Over the course of the season, he's averaged 6.4 yards per attempt. This is just not good enough. And the only way the Jets can produce any sort of big plays in the passing game are when a guy does something big after the catch. Hall had a couple nice runs after the catch. There was one play with Devontae Adams where Rodgers dumped it off to him. It was originally called a run play, and Rodgers saw that Adams would be open. He dumped it off to him, and Adams was able to take it down the field for a nice gain. But there's no ability to hit the big pass. There's no ability to stretch the field. And that's why you see this offense so limited. And with the Jets right now, it's almost like, again, it's like going back to the Zach Wilson days where there's no ability to make splash plays. So you just have to try and cobble together enough everywhere else. The defense has to produce turnovers and give you a short field now and then. Breece Hall has to break big plays. You have to catch a couple breaks like the penalties. And even then, it's not enough. I mean, at 40 years of age, this is what Aaron Rodgers is. And if we want to talk about reasons that this Aaron Rodgers experiment has failed, well, there are many. And there are a lot of people who are underperforming. There were a lot of questionable personnel decisions the Jets made. But I think at the top of the list right now, you'd have to say Aaron Rodgers is the most questionable of the questionable personnel decisions because he's just not a quarterback that looks capable of doing a whole lot at this moment. I understand. Yeah, I know 27 points, but think about how they were scored. Was it Aaron Rodgers making special plays, or was it other guys stepping up like Breece Hall and the Jets catching a few breaks that gave them a short field? I think the answer to that's rather obvious. And you see why this offense is so limited right now. You see why the Jets are losing games. Look, the Colts made enough mistakes that the Jets could have blown them out if the Jets were good in the first half of this game. And the Jets had other opportunities to put this game away. Rodgers just didn't make the plays. And I don't think he's going to show much ability to make these plays going forward. Anyway, that's all for this Sunday edition of Locked On Jets. Tune in tomorrow for our regular show. We'll continue talking about the disappointment as the Jets fall to the Indianapolis Colts. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Enjoy the rest of the games. Talk to you tomorrow.